Hello, and welcome to our series on influencer marketing. Hi, Rachel. Very nice to meet you today.
Hello, nice to meet you as well.
So it's great to connect, and let's talk today about your journey as an influencer. So I know that you are an influencer. You have your own product brand. You travel, and you've got like various different talents. You're trying to put together an agency of people to train people. So I'd love to hear your journey about where you started, what's your passion, and what's your main interest?
Oh gosh, when you have to talk about yourself, it's hard. But it's funny, I got really inspired this morning by talking to like maybe a new influencer, and she kind of reminded me of the journey. So, when you're a new influencer, you're kind of everywhere because you don't know what you're doing, you don't have help, you don't have guidelines. Typically people don't have a coach or a mentor. So you just kind of are all over until you like figure it out, and if you're self-conscious or you just don't know how to promote yourself, that's something that I'm seeing, that it's not that people don't want to do it, they just don't know how to do it. So oftentimes
Mhm.
it stops them from starting. And that's like my biggest thing. I don't know what I'm doing, but I have to keep going. And I feel like with a lot of research and trial and error, that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am today, to have different conversations, because I'm more progressed. But, when I started, I just, like I said, I was all over the place. I was downloading apps and I was, going on websites and researching which ones were paid. Because obviously, when you start as an influence, you're not going to get paid
Mhm.
typically. A lot of the stuff is like, you have to prove yourself to get those better deals or bigger deals. So a lot of the times you just do grunt work for stuff that, you love or you're already using, or, for me it's stuff that I'm inspired to try and talk about, because obviously like making life easier and like simplifying things is kind of like what everybody wants. And
Yeah.
when you're thinking about buying products, which to me an influencer is influencing products or a trend or services or whatever the case may be, but like you're pushing something that you like, know, and trust. So if you don't know anything about the product, it's really hard to talk
Mhm.
about it or make content, and good content, because if you're just making content that has no purpose, it doesn't hold value, and people aren't going to come back to your page, or they're not going to follow you, So a lot really goes into being an influencer, and like getting the brand deals and, negotiating the time frames, making sure stuff is coming in, and honestly good communications with the brands, getting their expectations. And that's how you keep getting repeat jobs or influencer, products, or people reach out to you, or and also to being open to new concepts and being able to learn, like the travel blog thing is so new for me. So it's like, yeah, I've written stuff, in my 31 years, but I haven't written that, so it's like
Mhm.
time and effort and research. And that's the cool thing too. Like, I've never done everything. And I'm not going to say as an influencer I know everything,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's kind of like life. You're always learning and growing, and that's just a part of it. And I think every day I feel like I learn something and I have to grow. And more and more now a schedule is so pertinent, because you don't have that much time, in a work life balance. Because even though people think like, oh, she's an influencer, she can do whatever wherever, and it's like there's a lot that goes into it,
Yeah.
just because it's not like a 9 to 5 job, or I don't have tentative hours. Like, I'll work whenever, wherever, however I can fit it in. But it also, to me, is important to have that flexible schedule to be like, mentally recharged, and, be able to go do fun things like vacation or whatever, because if you're burnt out, you can't show up,
Yeah. Yeah.
wholeheartedly. You show up either with your content doesn't look good, or like you're not putting love and effort into your editing or your wording on stuff, and all those little details matter. It adds up, or it like decreases from everything. So Yeah, I just kind of like got inspired and I wanted that freedom and flexibility. And I kind of was like, I want to be an influencer, but didn't know how. So just kind of like self taught.
Mhm.
And I'd say that that's kind of how I got, here today. And I wouldn't say like my journey's done. It's not
Yeah.
over. Like you had said, like there's so many different avenues that I might have started 6 months or a year ago that either launched or, progressed into something that I'm doing in the future that's just not here. Like, obviously, you understand
Yep.
checks and balances and putting things together and deadlines and everything. But yeah, I mean, and I feel like being an influencer evolves all the time. It's not one thing. Maybe your niche is the same,
Yep.
but maybe like the topics or, I mean, obviously the world is evolving daily with new adversities and things. And that just gives, an influencer more kind of things to talk about too,
Yeah.
which is a good thing and also a bad thing depending on if you don't want to show up, because your career is always about consistently showing up and doing. And so yeah, I mean, it's an everyday battle, I guess.
Cool. So
Yeah.
tell me about your first brand campaign. Like, how did you get the campaign? How much time did you take? And what do you
Mhm.
think you could have done differently, or you would have liked the brand to do differently?
If I don't exactly remember the exact first one, but like some of my first ones came off of a brand website or app called Incense. I work with them pretty closely. And I think the thing that I wish I would have changed was more of like the brand accountability. Like just little minor things like sending out a tracking number so you knew when the package was coming, or if it did get lost, you had that. And at the time, the app didn't allow for like specific things like horizontal versus square or like vertical versus, horizontal. So, I remember specifically shooting a bunch of content, which in the beginning, 2 to 3 minutes was a lot. And it
Mm-hmm.
was more of like, almost like a review video. And that was like very new to me. Like I knew how to make a reel. I knew how to make aesthetically pleasing posts and whatnot. So when that content came up, I didn't even think twice before like I accepted it. But then during it, I was like a little frustrated because I was like, wow, I don't know how they want this edited because they really didn't give much specifics. So I remember turning it all in and being so excited, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, we need this horizontal." And I was like, so I had spent like, and I spent a lot of time. I would say like I maybe spent like 2 to 3 days from start to finish, like sending off and editing and like making sure everything was beautiful. And then I was like, so that was a little discouraging, but I later found out that that was some part of the app that they had like progressed in. So it wasn't necessarily something that they did wrong or I did wrong. It just wasn't clear or specified. And then after the fact, it was. So I was like, and then you get thinking about, your time. And if you're making X amount for this post and they're wanting multiple revisions or like
Yeah.
a whole redo of the content, not that you're trying to be like, I guess the word like not bougie, but like difficult. Not that you're
Yeah.
trying to be difficult as the influencer, but you're like, wow, if that took me that amount of time, and obviously I was new, so it took a lot longer than it should. Thank
Mhm.
goodness for long deadlines. But yeah, that was the one thing. But moving forward, some of those things have gotten worked out. I'm definitely more picky, choosy of like who I'm working with. Because obviously time is money, and if I'm gonna
Yeah.
make way more over here doing this, and still be able to have a personal life and still be able to not be in one location because I'm waiting for packages, I have to be, difficult. And I can't necessarily so much take like the gifted campaigns,
Mhm.
because if I'm a full-time influencer, a lawyer wouldn't always take, free pro bono stuff. I mean, they do, but they can't afford it all the
Yes.
time, you know? So I
Mhm.
just have to be efficient with it until, you know, I'm a bigger influencer and do have always those consistent brand deals
Mhm.
versus like right now I'm a little bit smaller and newer, so I have
Mhm.
to continuously like find and negotiate with multiple brands versus just specific brands, you know, already pre-negotiated in a sense. But
Right.
that's future goal and
Mhm.
future progress as we speak.
And was it after you ran the campaign, were you able to measure the results, or what? Like, how did you? Was it that you just finished the campaign, sent it to them, and then that was done, or did they come back to you and say, "Hey, this is how you did, and this is the result, and we got so many website visits or app visits or whatever."
There was like I had to go like I think the specific is like 5 to 7 days or something after that. You have to re-go in and show them your post statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, there was no follow-up about the specific content like you had said, "Oh, you did great. We got so many sales driven from your content." That would
Right.
have been really nice, but that doesn't typically happen.
Yeah.
I did continue to work with that brand on other products like 2 or 3 more times. So I did benefit in the repeat,
Yeah.
but I did not get any like feedback like you could have improved here, which is always nice because sometimes you just like aren't being creative that day or you're just
Mm-hmm.
not thinking or like maybe the brand or you have two different visions and if you really don't know what their expectations are like you know that you don't know and you know
Yeah.
sometimes you might deliver content that you're like oh that wasn't that good and then the brand's like oh my gosh that was amazing and you're like oh okay cool well that's
That's always
awesome.
the case. You always get more critical about yourself. So
And maybe that is, you know, and I find that that's helpful though because sometimes going back in your content and looking at like maybe where you've progressed or maybe like areas that you've gotten away from.
yeah.
Like I feel like I used to do a lot different content than what I do now and a lot of it's just because some of it's like I've moved towards the influencer and the paid brand deals so I'm showing
Awesome.
products and services versus before a lot of it was like self development like quotes, you know, I did like do a lot more like funny um like reels or like TikTok type deals like taking people's audios and whatnot. So I mean I did get a little bit away from that so maybe my audience changed a little bit as I changed but you know, it's all just depending on what feels comfortable. I feel as the influencer, as long as you're hitting your brand targets and your payment targets, like as far as your the rest of your content, you still have to be kind of a human and show like your 5 brand pillars of you of, or like what's
Yeah.
important to you and whatnot. And I feel like that maybe helps keep content a little less influencery or at
Yeah.
least breaks up some of the products or topics, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it helps.
Great. Okay. And so one aspect is where you are sort of doing a review of a brand's products and you're giving your feedback and you talk about what they give you, right? The other aspect, like an evolution of that, is where you create your own brand. So you want to express more. So, for example, I saw that you have your own websites, right? So it looks like you evolved from, hey, I'm just going to talk about other people's brands versus I'm going to build my own. So tell me a little bit more about that aspect, about your goal towards building something for yourself.
Yeah, that actually, in funny story, it was actually like reversed. So I actually started like my website and I had like my services and whatnot posted. And then I kind of went and I had my brand, so to speak. And then the influencer
Oh,
things kind
okay.
of like unfolded. And I don't know if it was just like, it just was the whole timing of it kind of coming out, so to speak, simultaneously. But yeah, it just I think maybe too all the research I did and maybe I was overwhelmed and I was all over the place, but I kind of just did so much research on like YouTube or like blogs and like asking people good questions, getting on Zoom calls. So like I just did a whole bunch of whatever I could. And like a
Yeah.
lot of times, like in COVID, I was doing a lot of like, I was writing a mini book and I was like trying to write a course, so I had been doing stuff and it was like in the works. So, like, that's why I was able to push some stuff out relatively fast or all at one time because I was pre doing it in hopes like that's kind of the direction I was going to go. Because during COVID, I had no idea. Like, I was laid off from my job, and obviously, I loved social media and Instagram and everything, but like, it wasn't really a concept to me that I could get paid through that. So it
Right. Okay.
was like more like a hobby and a passion that
Hmm.
really just kind of like evolved from like people telling me like that's not real, you can't get paid from that. So I guess maybe like bad critics motivated my passion for it. And it just so happened that it did kind of fit into like the influencer genre. So, yeah, that's kind of how that started. So I did a lot of like back work and then like it just happened like through the research. I applied for all those brands, downloaded all the apps, made all the profiles, all the accounts, because that takes time too to
Hmm.
establish like a presence or a profile, because everybody requires different things,
Yeah.
whether it's TikTok, Instagram, bios, and like you can't just copy and paste that stuff. Like,
Yeah. There's too
you
many tools, and you're diluting your presence all over the place, right?
Yeah, and then you have to decide which, like you said, which one's my value. Like,
Yeah.
where should I spend my time? Where should I build an account and a following and all that stuff? So it's like, so I kind of went that way. And then, like, a whole, like, just a lot of ideas happened at one time. And I did get a lot of knowledge and help from people, so maybe things that I thought were like so hard, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be 6 months down the road. I'm
Mm.
like, oh, okay, well, I found a solution or like a simpler way for me to progress that, area faster. And, obviously I'd been in like sales and management. So, like, coaching and getting on calls and talking to people and conversations and like, compartmentalizing things and like schedules and whatnot. That was just second nature to me.
Yeah.
So some of that like made it a little bit easier for me because I didn't have like the stage fright. Like a lot of influencers go through like the stage fright. Like, oh, I can't get on my stories and talk, or oh, I can't make content with me in it. Like, and I guess maybe I had that leeway or I didn't really have that adversity to get over because it was just like, every in timeshare when I went out to go get my people or greet them, it was like this corner and whatever happens like after the corner, like the show starts. So for me, I was used to that, so maybe that's where I excelled and things were a little bit easier to me. And I think I've always been creative too, so that helped. And then like obviously I liked research and coaching and like getting tips and like finding processes for me. So I think that's helped a lot too. And I also realized that sharing is caring. So,
Yeah.
by me helping people like or giving them my knowledge, because in the influencer world, that's not necessarily a thing. Like, or
Really?
it's more like, a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, no problem, I'll help you." And then when it comes down to it, they don't, and
Yeah.
it's like either they're being like mean about it because they think that you're gonna get, over them or steal their whatever. But honestly, it's really helps to have that like feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to a woman that like she just started and I was like, wow, I wouldn't have known that you're 2 weeks into your influencer journey based on your content because you're just so presentable,
Yeah.
so it's just like that helps. And that, like picking her brain and seeing her background of like how she did things, or like maybe they give me tips that I don't even know about, so
Yeah.
it's so nice, and it's like I feel like it's going to evolve and get better and more advantageous as more options come out and people feel like it's more of a reality, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, hold on, take the bad criticism, and take all like the ebbs and flows because it's gonna get easier eventually.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so I love that you've covered all the three aspects of influencer journey. Like one is your own brand, your influencer as talking for other brands, and then trying to be a coach and trying to like build a community, right? So that's really that sort of dovetails into what we are looking at as our vision for the future, right? So we believe that brands are always looking for the right influencers, and it's really hard for them to measure and to find the right people, right? So one is, how do we get influencers like you visible on, maybe like you have web3, now you have a blockchain. Can we get your profile, up there, that is authentic, that's verifiable, and it's not necessarily tied to one particular network like TikTok's, Instagram, Facebook. It's not diluted, but like one profile. The second thing is, so you get projects easily, right? You don't have to go hunting for projects, and you can focus on your creative work, right? Because you'd rather be a creator than a project manager. That's our assumption.
Yeah, I mean, eventually that is something that I need to hire. I mean, because
Yeah,
honestly, it's like with the emails and deadlines, and I'm a human, like,
yeah,
you can relate. There's just so much that goes into it. And once you scale or up level, as you get deeper
yeah,
into it, like, that's a convenience, but also something that you can't do everything. You have
yeah,
to like pawn off the stuff that maybe you don't love the most,
yeah,
like,
yes,
so, but yeah, I know, I agree. But also too, like you said, like I talked to a brand the other day and it was kind of like, because we had like a back and forth call like this, kind of like how to
mhm,
make it better. And I was like, it would be really nice to have like a referral link. Just
yeah,
because for me as the influencer, if I'm going to help somebody, it's nice to get credit or a
yeah,
percentage or whatever the case may be. But
mhm,
it's also looks cool because like I look official with that brand.
yeah.
And they were like, "Well, we don't even have enough work for the influencers that we have. So we don't want you to drive traffic back necessarily."
Oh,
And I was like, oh, so that might be something, growing pain for them. But that's also for me as an influencer, it's good to know because if they feel like that's a struggle right now, I do not want to push new influencers there because I don't want the new influencers to get denied necessarily. But I
yeah,
also would like a lot of work for everybody so they don't think that it's like such a struggle. Like, and
mhm,
it's nice, like you had said, to put everything all in one. So there is like a system, there's a
yeah,
network, and it's one place. And
yeah,
then if I have friends, like we're all in the same website,
exactly.
I can send stuff back and forth. It's just so nice, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And if it's
yeah,
easy to use, like it's going to be, yeah, I mean that will deter me from, putting my focus in different areas like we had talked about, in the past because I have it all in one, and
mhm,
that makes life so much easier.
yes. So the one aspect is the easy connection to the brands, getting projects easily. The second thing is the collaboration, which you spoke about. So, for example, you said you spoke to the other lady and you said, "Hey, you did such a great job." So, what if you had the option to take, like, let's say that she created a collection of products and she just shared it in her network, and let's say you loved what she did and you shared it along your network. That would basically multiply the effect of her campaign, and it would, and what if you could get paid for that, right? For being participating in getting her products out to a larger audience. So that's what we're trying to build, where we have an attribution network where everybody who participates takes gets the credit, gets transparently rewarded, and in that case you wouldn't mind referring somebody else, or somebody else, like you said, there are people who are very protective about their turf, right? They wouldn't be so if they felt they could benefit from helping you directly. It's
Yeah,
not as a
I
favor,
agree.
but as a business partnership, right? I mean, there are only so many favors people will do for you unless they're really
Bingo.
nice at heart. So,
Yeah, well, and also too, like just creating that awareness, like of
yeah,
that stigma too, maybe through the ease and convenience that can help, like, hey, we don't have like collaboration over competition, type deal. Maybe I just feel like that would be
right.
really beneficial.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, right. And the other aspect which you probably did not encounter too much is that the brands do eventually look for ROI, right? So even though they do initially say, "Hey, just do a video post for me," and I get some brand awareness, the mostly the bigger brands do at some point start measuring what they get and what they give. Even if it's not money, even if they're spending time with you, they want to get ROI from their time. So,
Oh yeah.
I believe that the reason why a lot of brands don't get a good ROI is because of the process, right? Like for example, I was talking to an enterprise brand, and they said that they take 12 to 14 weeks to conceptualize a campaign and create a landing page, and then they look for their influencers to promote it. So imagine that you're planning for Mother's Day, and you take 12 weeks to plan a campaign. You're already maybe a little bit behind on the trends because you're 12 weeks late. And then you're finding influencers who are all leading people to the same page. So there's no room for the creativity for influencers because everyone's like pointing to the page which is already been built by the brand manager or the merchandising manager there. So we're trying to flip that around by giving people like you the room to create collections that match your audience, that match your style, and because that's what's going to appeal to your audience on Instagram or wherever you have a following. So what if each influencer could have entire room to create your own storefront, push it to your audience, and then the brand just has to produce, watch the stats, and then produce more and more of whatever is selling better. So that,
Yeah, I mean, because those are two, like, they're all really great concepts. You know what I mean? Like, the more you keep giving, the more you're going to keep on the platform. So, like, Amazon's the great one because it's been out there forever. The more they keep giving people, the more and more people, the more easier they're making it to shop, the more and
yeah.
more people are going to give it. So, like the collections are wonderful, the collaboration, being able to share the collection or the collaboration or like the content. Um, but also too, like if I got a commission like on a storefront, yeah, of course I'm going to market that. Or
Yeah.
like I'm personally going to keep shopping through there so I can have all those products, delivered to my house
Yeah.
to endorse them. Or even too with the ROI, like I can totally relate with the brands.
Hmm.
Like, shipping's expensive, and depending on what type of box, you're either going to pay, $20 or you would be paying $50. So on
Yeah.
top of your product cost, you're out all of that. So I can totally relate to that, but sometimes too as an influencer, like we want a physical product. So like if we're having to buy that,
Hmm.
if they're sending out stuff, that might be like a benefit too. Like you
Hmm.
had said, yes, the brands have to produce stuff, but that if it's like, well, I guess it is the same stuff that we're buying off of any other website because it is designer. I guess I was thinking more of like really specific Shopify stores, you know what I mean? Versus it's very broad. So I guess that really wouldn't, but I think, yeah, I mean, the more and more topics you're giving us and the more and more ease and use on the website or
Hmm.
more options to make
Yeah.
money, like people join an MLM because there's 7 different ways to get paid.
Yeah.
If your website offers 5 to 10 different ways to get paid or options or, from your collections or your blockchain or
Yeah.
the storefront or whatever the case may be. Because are you going to do like, I know you had mentioned crypto, but are they going to do like a referral program? So if you refer people to the blockchain or crypto, then you'll get like a reward?
No, no, not yet, because we think that right now there is too much um, lack of trust in that space, and we know that influencers are being paid like like $1,500 to refer stuff, and that also takes away the credibility because people don't trust that the influencer is doing it for their best interest, or it's
Yeah.
probably because
Well, and there's so many scams out there
there
that
are
people are
scams.
saying I made $10,000 and that's not true. And you know
Yeah,
it's not true. Like
yeah.
from an influencer to an influencer.
Yes, but we definitely are planning to create let people collect NFTs and create storefronts and then talk about them, because in that case, we would also add more functionality. Like, for example, if there's an influencer who collects NFTs, you can actually go to that NFT and you can verify if that influencer owns one. Right. So suppose you don't know about NFTs, but you want to follow somebody who invests in NFTs as an investment. So right now we're just talking the as NFTs as an investment, right? So if you know that there's somebody who's bought an NFT and then he's promoting it, it's much more credible than, hey, I'm gonna getting paid to talk about this. So
Mm-hmm.
we would look at NFTs, and so we would look at NFTs as a product, but then our main goal for NFTs is as a utility. So an NFT can be created by a brand to offer to an influencer as a token. It's a permanent record of loyalty, right? So for example, let's say you buy Burger King every day. Burger King offers you an NFT and that entitles to your 5% off every time you buy a burger. Now, let's say you decide to become healthy and you don't want to buy Burger King anymore. You may just give it to someone else who's anyway going to buy Burger King. So it can be transferable, right? Think of it as you've earned all this loyalty and now you want to transfer it to somebody else and they also can benefit. So that's
Okay.
one of the very many examples, but we're planning to enable brands to offer NFTs to influencers, especially to the top influencers that are already bringing them value. So that,
And you can sell NFTs, right?
yes, yes,
Okay. So essentially, it's still another form of payment. It's just a creative form of payment that
yeah,
generally people aren't getting paid in NFTs
yeah, yeah.
currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
you could either cash it out, right? You could like redeem it for cash, or you could keep it and let it grow, and then the perks associated with that would increase as you keep it, because usually they try to encourage you to keep the NFT so that its value increases. So suppose
So
you have an
kind of like
NFT.
Bitcoin, so to speak, when it was hot.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you're expecting that the NFT value is going to go up, and at that point, if you're not planning to continue with that brand, you could just transfer it to someone else, and the next person gets incentivized to again promote them. So that's one of the things. And the use of crypto is mostly for the easy transferability in microtransactions. For example, you don't want to incur transaction fees for like a $1 reward, but if it's a microtransaction that's got no transaction fees, then it all adds up, right? Even small change tends to add up very fast, and you would rather get the $1 today than like $10 after 2 months. So it just
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it,
No,
it
I get
helps
what,
you
yeah.
it helps you know that you're continuously winning stuff, and it gives you that sort of satisfaction about that you're doing a good job, and people are actually clicking on products that you're campaigning, people are buying, and so these commissions keep rolling in real time.
And that will have more traffic than just from my network because it will have traffic, so to
Absolutely.
speak, from the network.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Okay.
And then the other model, of course, I told you about, which we are working on, is the budget travel type of websites, right? Where you have an audience and then we go put our products there and we bring influencers like you to boost that further, right? So they have a captive of audience of pretty much almost 100,000 monthly users. And on top of that, if we can bring influencers like you to write blogs or create collections that of products that go with the blogs, and then you promote it to your network, and then we bring in more influencers, so the overall value to budget travel multiplies, and then they get incentivized to share more with their audience, right? It's more like a collaborative value addition that we're building. So at this point,
Yeah,
we
and
have
this
four
is
parties involved, right? We have the brands.
okay.
Brands are getting sales. The commissions right now coming to us. We are working with Budget Travel, who's giving us the audience. So that's helping with the commissions. And then we are bringing you in, so you get to promote your blogs and your portfolio. And when you become prominent in the network, then there'll be more brands, and the next set of brands would not be just on a commission. We would say, hey, we would also charge a campaign fee, because commission alone is not enough. So we would boost the value of our network by bringing making it better and better as we go. That's the goal.
And they're one of your like first bigger brands that you're trying this concept
Mhm.
with. So eventually you're going to start duplicating
Many
this.
of them, yes, yes,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Okay. I'm just wondering like the timeline and where everything's at. So that
Yeah,
makes
yeah. So there's that's one of the content sites. We're also partnering with gaming websites where we can have a storefront put inside a game on a mobile app. Like there's, for example, a game in the fashion space, and they could have a storefront associated with that. So all the people who play fashion games could also shop from there. And we have a learning engine which will understand what people like, and it augments what the influencer does. So you start with your collection, but then as people click through, our machine learning engine will add more products. So you don't have to guess the taste of every single individual. You just put in what you think is right for your audience, and then the learning engine augments what you do.
all
So
around
it's
it.
like
Okay.
man plus machine. That's what we're trying to build.
Perfect. Giving more options than one can think of.
Yeah. Mhm.
Perfect.
Right. So, okay, so what's next for you, and where would you like to see yourself, let's say 2 years from now? Let's not say 5 years.
Yeah, right.
These days,
I
time
know time
time
goes so
flies.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly just building a brand. I just launched another business. It's more of like it's kind of like influencer coaching, but the perfect products, but like with my knowledge. So we just came out with a guide, how to teach people everything like I've just talked about. So just and then just really defining my personal brand and like honing in on my platforms and my people and getting really like bigger brand deals, more like efficient ones. So maybe I can work with like four brands continuously versus like, we had talked about always having to negotiate, like having more stable contracts.
Yeah.
Um and just, getting better and growing in every angle, like with my content, with my videography, with me as an influencer, like speaking to people, writing emails, just getting efficient and eventually growing a team, so it's not just me, I can do the things that I really enjoy and they can do the things that I really don't enjoy. But we all work together and it comes out because, honestly, like it is a process, an influencer, content, from start to finish, it is a process. So just seamlessly getting better and bigger in personal branding. So I don't have any like income goals or anything. I'm just really kind of like I know what I want and I kind of like see the vision. So just like growing like effortlessly, not forcing anything and just kind of seeing because I honestly know that no matter what I plan for, it could change, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
like the ebbs and flows and things get put on the back burner and like some things take precedence over others. So that's just kind of like what I'm thinking tentatively in the next 2 years, but nothing set fully.
Yeah, I think today they say that people who are more flexible and who are willing to work hard are the ones that go ahead. So it's about always being willing to learn and grow, and about being flexible as to and seeing the opportunities. You see an opportunity in every problem rather than the other way around. So that,
Yeah, well, and also too, that's the thing you said had seeing an opportunity because you might be like struggling and then all of a sudden like something happens and you're like, that's what I was looking for, but I didn't
yeah,
know, and like
exactly.
it just like everything just starts flowing better and it's just
Mhm.
more aligned because some stuff you're gonna go down and you're gonna like be so excited and then you're gonna be like, that really isn't for me. And that's okay. You like if things just don't feel right, you don't have to force them and you just have to like take a detour or like see the positive and like backpedal or change the plan and be flexible, so
Exactly.
patience and flexibility were not my favorite things, but I'm learning and I'm growing and it's been wonderful, because why be so specific and get let down versus,
Yeah.
very broad and like be excited, for every little moment that happens. So
Mhm.
that's my plan.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you and collaborating on so many projects together. So,
Yes, I'm excited.
yes, thank you. Stop. Trying to stop recording. I think I have to chop the last part. Why stop recording is not working.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
stopping.
I wonder. Well, if we end this,
Yeah.
then we probably won't have another link, right?
No, end and rejoin the same link. It'll work.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'll do
Yeah.
that then.
Okay.